Check the email during a break. Somebody said, I don't understand what you mean, liberalism's gutless choice. You need to explain it. I'll give you a story here in just a second. I'll explain it after the break here, coming up at the bottom of the hour. It's about my first trip to Hollywood and being pitched on the possibility of hosting my own TV show. It's a fascinating story. I've told it before, but it's so long ago you've probably forgotten it. If you have not forgotten, you remember, you'll find it fascinating anyway. It makes the point. But now I thought, ladies and gentlemen, Obama didn't believe in torture. I thought we got a big speech on that the other day. I thought the Senate committee staff report on torture just really lambasted this country. We are horrible. We torture. It's not who we are. And to put this thing out, we never happen again. What did Obama just do? He just normalized relations with a regime that tortures people that disagree with them politically. They don't torture people. Only people who they think are going to attack them and try to overthrow them. They torture people who think differently. And Obama just normalized relations with them. And Cuba, by the way, happens to be an ocean paradise, according to people like Sean Penn and the rest of the people in Hollywood who are supposedly outraged over kowtowing to a dictator in North Korea. But they love kowtowing to a dictator in Cuba, who tortures and has tortured for 50 years. People who only disagree with him. They're celebrating that. They're applauding that. They're making travel plans. They can't wait to go get some Cuban rum. And they want North Korea nuked off the face of the earth. There's a reason these people are relegated to make-believe. And too many of them make the jump from make-believe to real world simply because they portrayed a role or a person in a movie and they end up thinking they're not qualified when they're not. This is amazing. Obama wants to have normal relations with Cuba, a country famous for its torture chambers and political prisons, its violations of international law and human rights. And that's being applauded, and that's wonderful. And the Norks, well, their days better be numbered. At Kim Jong-un, we're going to give him a big sausage between his butt cheeks. If he's not careful, we're really mad now. Okay, so Obama doesn't believe in torture, condemns the United States for it, says we have to change our ways. The fact that we don't torture is made up and manufactured, and it said that we do, and then we are the scourge of the planet, folks. In the Senate Staff Committee report, we, the United States, the scourge of the planet, and many liberals believe this. This is the point. I keep saying 25, 20 years ago, these people would say these outrageous, crazy things, and we'd laugh at them, and then we would say, who's going to believe this crap? Who's ever going to? And now, it's 25, 20 years later, and we are shocked to find out that all this time, more and more people did accept it and did believe some of the most outrageous, ridiculous claims that we never took really seriously because they were so far away from our perceived sanity and bounds of reality. And so we find ourselves today looking at normal, everyday utterances of people on the left. And I don't know about you, but people are shocked to find out people actually think this way. And more of them do. And it's centered in the academy. I've got in my stack of stuff today, I've got 3 different stories about the things that women professors are teaching their students and thus what the students believe. And it's some of the most outrageous, insane, crazy stuff you could think of. But to liberalism, it's mainstream belief. So the U.S. was the scourge of torture. The U.S., the United States, failed to live up to our values. How many times did you get sick hearing that? We were minding our own business on 9/11/2001. And here we are some years later, and if you didn't know better, if you just landed from Mars, you would think that we did something to cause that we deserve to be attacked, and that we'd better learn why. That has become a common belief system, not only in liberalism in this country, but around the world. But if you go back to that day, what we're doing, what we've always done, beacon of hope, liberty, freedom for everybody around the world, world superpower. The one nation on earth standing for freedom and justice, defending it, protecting it, securing it for anybody else, providing a haven for people, and yet here we are 13 years later, and it was all our fault. And we deserve even more of it. Why? Because we're racist, because we had slavery, because we oppressed women, we stole the country from the Mexicans, before that we stole it from the Native Americans. Do you realize what a scourge on the planet this country, and you add to that, we're destroying the planet with climate change and global warming, our advanced lifestyle, which we owe to theft. Our superpower status, our standard of living, our prosperity only results from how much we've stolen from other people around the planet. Do you realize what a scourge, what a plague on the planet the United States is to these people? More of them than you think. And so, if you grow up thinking that, and here comes some cyber hacker threatening to tell everybody what you said about your classmate in an email. We got high school on display here. You know what I think's driving the Sony hack? These executives, these holier-than-thou, good people liberals, are paranoid that people are going to find out the truth about them based on the emails being leaked. They are scared. This is no different than being in high school. You live a lie. You live a phony image of yourself. You craft one. You create one. But in real life, in private, with people you think will never blab on you, you're ratting out everybody else. You're telling them what you think of all these other punks that you're faking as though you like and love them. And now the hack has come along, and all of a sudden, all these people, the veil is going to be lifted, and they're living in panic and fear over what other people are going to find out about them. And so I think these people are going to do anything they can to limit future releases of hacked data because they just can't stand it. And I think it's childish in the big scheme of things. Grow up. Everybody doesn't like everybody else. Grow up. Some of you hate other people, and you've told other people how much you hate. Grow up. Because what's happening, because of this fear, this self-loathing, the idea that people might learn the truth about us in Hollywood or whatever. Okay, we won't show the movie. Okay, we'll close the theaters. Okay, but please don't release any more hack data. Please. Oh, by the way, I got to call Al Sharpton so that, and then I'll call Jesse Jackson. Whatever you want, Reverend Jackson. Shake me down, whatever you want, but don't release any more of my emails. Oh, my God. I'm going to die of embarrassment. Oh, my God, can I keep my This is what's going on. And it's being brought to us by people who have portrayed themselves as our saviors, smarter than the rest of us. The very people who claim to be better than we are because they have more compassion and they're more tolerant and they're more understanding. And when the veil is lifted, you find out they're not doing diddly squat or a damn thing to solve any of the problems they claim to be deeply troubled by. And when people come along and seriously do try to solve these problems, they're called names. Racists, sexists, bigots, homophobes, you name it. Then George W. Bush comes along and says the axis of evil includes Iran, North Korea, and I forget the third nation that was in the axis of evil. But these people just had a cow when Bush. And why? We don't want to make North Korea bad. Oh, my God. And it's just a tiny little sliver of a country. And now look. And you get to Cuba once again, and here's Obama participating in this whole meme that the U.S. is a scourge and a plague on the planet because we abandoned our values. We didn't live up to our values. And we showed the world what a rotten, mean people we can be. So we have penance to pay. We have a price to pay. We have to make up for all of these grievances. We have to make up for slavery. We have to make up for oppression of women. We have to make up for all kinds of things. We liberals don't because we've been on the right side of all of it. But the country, well, it needs to pay a price. And so we're going to tell the world we know how much America sucks. And we're going to release a report in the Senate that lets the world know that we agree that the United States is guilty of the most evil torture of heartless, endless, free people. Oh, my God. And then less than 2 weeks later, we announce that we're going to prop up economically a dictatorship in Cuba, which actually does torture people as the norm. Iraq was the other, Saddam, other nation in the axis of evil. So now we're going to prop up a regime that tortures a regime that Hollywood loves, a regime that Hollywood romanticizes about, a regime that Michael Moore made a movie about, claiming the best health care in the world is in Cuba. Yeah. Cuba, that's the place. America, pfft. Cuba, yeah, man. So now we're going to prop that up. Isn't it a beautiful thing? And the same people on the left condemning the North Koreans for hacking Sony cheered when the hackers of this group called Anonymous shut down the Ferguson police computers and leaked the names and addresses of Darren Wilson and other cops. Oh, yeah, they cheered that hack. Oh, they cheer any hack that embarrasses an American corporation. They cheer any hack that embarrasses the United States of America. And then a hack that comes around and affects them. Why, we can't put up with this. Why, this is intolerable. Now, bear in mind, Obama exacted a price for bailing out General Motors and Chrysler. He demanded ownership. Obama demanded all kinds of concessions to General Motors and Chrysler. He demanded ownership and a bunch of things. The stockholders, remember, the actual bondholders of General Motors had to pay the price. The bondholders and some of the stockholders in General Motors lost everything in that takeover. The unions, who had no equity at all, were given the company. Okay? So General Motors was viewed as an evil entity, an evil that had to be gotten even with, because General Motors had ripped off its employees, and General Motors had not been fair with health care, and General Motors had not been fair with the unions and their pensions. And so Obama comes in, we're going to fix that, we're going to take over General Motors, we're going to give it to the union. What do we get from Cuba? We exacted a price from General Motors and Chrysler. What price did Cuba pay for being bailed out, which is exactly what's happened? We have bailed out Cuba. But again, if you believe that it was a humanitarian thing because you believe that America is responsible for the suffering of the Cuban people, and if you believe lifting the embargo was going to help the Cuban people, and of course this is a wonderful thing, it's very reasonable, and you can be thought of as a wonderful person because you support it, because you are one in solidarity with the suffering of the Cuban people, because you know it's the fault of the United States of America. So lifting the embargo, yes, it's a beautiful humanitarian thing. It isn't. It's nothing humanitarian about it. The Cuban people are suffering because their leaders oppress them with communism, socialism, political tyranny, and torture chambers. Nothing to do with the United States of America. And now we have just bailed out the oppressors and propped them up. Labor unions, by the way, still outlawed in Cuba. Kid you not. Obama didn't even get that concession.